Hello and welcome. This is Mama Jess. Everything you wish your mother told you. One thing that's going to be really hard for you when you're growing up in this country is learning how to rest. This country doesn't do it well. We're very uncomfortable when people rest. We think they're being lazy and irresponsible. A lot of times when we have to rest, it requires that we're feeling things that are uncomfortable. We're not able to be distracted. There's a strong workaholism in this country, and so rest it's looked down upon. So if you do seek to rest, which you're going to need to, especially when you're going through hard times, you're going to have to stand in a confidence that you're doing the right thing, because there will be people around you that won't like it. And the one person who won't like it the most is probably you. After my young husband died, I had a heck of a time slowing down and resting, because I was raised in an extreme sport community of surfing. And my remedy for everything was just go work out. Try to get tight abs, be suntanned and just stoked and stay busy. Don't rest. What is that? I didn't even know what it was. You just do enough rest while during at night to sleep, to just wake up and just go pound hard all day long, running away from your feelings, from reality, from your true self, from God, whatever it was. I didn't know how to rest. So I'm just wanting to bring up a few stories that I've heard. One woman, she was recovering from a lifetime of being raised by a psychopath. And when she woke up to it and went through the awareness and the emotion of it and the final letdown, because your body will let down after you really see what you had to suffer. And maybe like coming out of a war-torn country and you finally get a chance to rest because you're safe, you just kind of you just crash. Your body, it's like a balloon. All the pressure's out and it's relaxed. And even going into the relaxation can feel uncomfortable. You can have some adverse symptoms. You might not feel very good sometimes as your body's trying to adjust, because you've been under such high stress like your whole life. So this woman told me she rested for 1 year. She took a year off. And that really helped me over the years when I was struggling to rest, because I felt like I was getting behind, I was missing out. There were so many years that I had missed so much. So now I'm really, really behind in many ways, not just maybe financially or wanting to get ahead economically so I could buy a home and look like I was the right age that I should be. And so it was hard for me to rest. So I would refer to her story often. And so I want to relay this story to you because I think it's really important for us to know. Also, when my grandfather, when he lost his dad, I was told that he sat on a chair on the porch for 2 weeks, and he spaced out and he just stared. I'm sure he had to maybe go to the bathroom or get some food, but he was in a really heavy time of grief and reflection, and it's a kind of rest. You just sit there in what would feel almost like the doldrums, like you're out at sea, and you can't, there's no momentum, there's no wind to catch your sails, you're just flat, and maybe you're shocked, maybe you're finally able to cry through it. But that was another thing that helped me. Like, wow, he just sat there on the porch. Like, when was the last time you really saw anyone sit on their porch, especially for 2 weeks? And that's how he was able to get through a really pivotal, devastating time in his life of losing his father. And depending on your relationship with your parent, it might be bittersweet, just bittersweet in that you had it was a hard go. Maybe you're relieved your parent died. But others, it's just pure sadness because you were best friends with them. So it might be different in how you handle it, but just know it's not uncommon, especially old timers, they had more freedom, I think, than we do now in our busy culture, to just sit still and be quiet and not be tuned in and not have the television running, because a lot of them didn't have any of that stuff. And now here I am in a transition also, and I'm wanting to teach you about resting. Right now, my chronic fatigue is especially bad, and I've had some really bad nights of sleep because your blood sugar levels can get screwed up, your salt, and it's scary. If you've ever been through, if you are diabetic, you've been through a low, like a super low glycemic episode, you know how scary that can be, because you're terrified to go into a coma. Or if you've had hyponatremia, low salt, which I have had, you do come close to the point of knowing that you could die. So the electrolytes are really gnarly and serious. And when you're stressed out, when you're overwhelmed, when you can't eat, when your body's burning up a lot of nutrition, a lot of the electrolytes, you can end up in a really bad position of being very sick. And it's crucial that you rest. So this is just the permission that I was given years ago to rest. I'm wanting to extend it to you. I want you to know you can rest when you need to. There are times in our life when we are legitimately and rightfully depressed. When life has crushed you so much, it presses you down, a depression down into the ground of this earth. And it's appropriate to have that respond when you're overwhelmed. Rather than go get high, rather than trying to lift yourself up by some synthetic means, it's better to wait down in the dust of your brokenness and trust that God is going to resurrect you out of it. And tending to eating properly. Find some very simple meals, even more like a liquid diet, to get yourself the nutrition. And you're going to want to sleep more than you usually do. And so rather than label yourself mentally ill and you've got a depression problem and all these different problems that supposedly we have, you really just need to rest. So if it, as much as it's humanly possible in the midst of your work week, the busyness with children, whatever your responsibilities are, you will need to inform other people, like, I am having a hard time, my health is failing right now. If I don't rest, I was told at one point, if you don't rest, you will die. And so this is not something to mess around with. And I do think that in our country, we're so afraid of rest, and we're afraid to ask other people to help us rest. And like, can we all just simmer down? Can we like dim the lights a little bit, turn off all the television and the music, and just be quiet for a while? Let our nervous system rest. You know, I think it's important that we, in our families, in our communities, in our relationships, just say, like, I am suffering and I need you to help me convalesce. And convalesce means to intensively strengthen. And we don't have places like that anymore. We don't really have those convalescing hospitals. Now they're like nursing facilities for old folks where they just give them meds and everyone has their television on too loud and people are moaning and yelling in the halls. And it's a miserable experience for everybody. But that's not how convalescing used to be, where the nurses would come in, the lights were dimmed, everything's quiet. Sadly, it's like we do need those kind of hospitals for the people who are suffering with their souls broken and tired. And unfortunately, a lot of even the medical world doesn't understand how to just help people rest. Instead, it's like, we have to diagnose you, we have to label you this, we have to get you on meds, we've got to file this as a case, and we've got to make sure that we're getting the money from the government, and we have to put proof, that we're doing something important. It's like, well, we are. We need to rest. Our souls need to rest. Our nervous system needs to rest. Nervous fatigue is very real. And of course, post-traumatic stress is very real. Shell shock, battle fatigue, whatever you want to call it. We really mostly need to be able to rest our nerves from overstimulation. And that is almost impossible in this country. Like, for me to find places to rest right now, it's like I'm constantly unplugging all the lights and everything that are in the rooms. I'm having to unplug the refrigerator, try to plug my ears from all the music and the loud cars, like the combustible engine is roaring. They're everywhere. Every time I'm out in the beautiful nature, there's an airplane like... So for us to find peace and rest, it's almost impossible. So you actively have to seek it. You actively have to pursue it and know that it's one of the most important aspects to your rehabilitation and your sanity. And you might find that it's not just a season in your life, it becomes your life. You realize how important it is to preserve the little bits of nervous system that still exist in you, because we've all been so burned up by our crazy culture it's romper room, it's overstimulation. And I'll talk more about how I think they always say kids have so much energy. I think most of the kids raised in this country are actually trained to be high. And so they have these highs and lows and highs and lows. And this like obsession with fun and lights and all just the busyness. I think the kids they're actually having adrenaline responses. And so the kids are learning how to be high young. And then as they get older, they're totally burned out. And so people turn to drugs to feel good, whether they're prescribed or they're illicit, illegal. So rest. You have permission to rest. So go easy, whatever you're going through. If you're here at the site because you've been broken down by life and you just don't think you're going to make it, just know that oftentimes we need a really good night of sleep, and we need someone to give us permission to rest. And we need to know we're not alone, that it's normal. Just like this woman, she had to rest for 1 year after waking up to all that psychopathic, narcissistic abuse of her youth. And so for many of you waking up to that, you might find you're exhausted. It doesn't mean you have a disorder any more than if you were running down the asphalt and you bit the dust and you grind up your knee. It's not like, oh, I have this like bloody knee disorder now. It's like, you're just broken. You just got beat up really bad in your soul, and things heal, and they need time, and they need rest. A lot of rest, more than you might want to know. Maybe a year worth of rest, or maybe 2 weeks sitting on the porch, just rocking on a chair and looking at the trees and just letting yourself decompress after all of the hardship. And so honor your nervous system, because it is an incredible machine communicating to you that it is overwhelmed and it cannot do anymore. And so it's requiring a life change. And that can be very scary because it might be the end of relationships, acknowledging a lot of the brokenness of your family, realizing that you might not be able to participate in the culture as it is. And so you're going to have to seek God to find like an underground railroad into some very simple kind of living. And it's not going to be the big money making Steve Jobs life where you're a billionaire and everyone thinks you're so, wow, you're so innovative. You might just be nobody, living in a little cabin somewhere, doing a little work trade, or being the director of just a little, an inn, and or a little retreat place, and you just sign people in. Here's your money, here's your receipt, and just, it's simple. And that's all you can manage, and that's enough. Because all we're doing here in this life is living a life seeking peace, seeking God, seeking to live by faith, seeking to know Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And knowing that so much of that kind of Christian life is you become nobody. You're dead to the world and the world is dead to you, and that's great. That's what it's about. So you don't have to be anybody great. Just always remember the focusing on caring for yourself and seeking God, and however He is going to empower you to either help others, or really maybe your main focus has to be helping yourself, because you have nobody. You've been beat up your whole life, and you're worn out. So your ministry might be simply taking care of yourself. And in doing that, you will be gaining a knowledge base that can be transferred to others who need that same kind of help. Because I think we're in a country that is so relationally traumatizing and violent and so godless that I think sadly, a lot of the ways that we're going to have to go, many of you, will be this mode of caring for yourself, because there is no one around to care for you. And that's sad. I think that's the indictment against our country, that we become so selfish, so self-absorbed with our distractions and our addictions that we don't have time to help another person convalesce, because we're impatient. It's boring. Who wants to sit around and help someone while they're in bed, getting them broth and bringing them, toast and helping them to the bathroom. Like, as far as I can see, and in my experience, most Americans are too busy. They don't want to participate in that. And that's just a sign of our time. So anyway, rest easy, and I'll be in touch. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.